Hey.
I like that.
Hey.
Hey.
I'm Rue,
And I'm Ren.
and welcome to Bish
Dish,
Dish.
dish. Jazz
We're
hands.
Bishes. We serve you dishes.
All the dishes, the good ones.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is so funny considering the topic of this episode.
We didn't.
Welcome to Bish Dish.
We didn't think our intro through. And I still no, this is a good time to remind everybody that we are not medical professionals and we're not exactly dancing over sensitivity. We're doing our best, but we're really off the cuff talking about very sensitive topics. We are here for the people who like the dark humor and the talking just very bluntly and open book like.
Period.
We don't know how to censor ourselves too well. So,
No.
that being said, Rue, what's our topic?
Our topic is eating disorders, America's
Jazz hands.
favorite.
We started this off in a way that might seem very insensitive. It might give comfort to everybody to know that we both have experience and severe experience with very bad consequences, and that's why we're here talking about it. And prevention, it may seem like we're poking fun, but again, dark humor is how we survive.
We are both diagnosed with bulimia, so we have been through the hurdles and we know how it is. And I think that gives a little bit of comfort to people who just think that we're two white bitches making fun of eating disorders.
We're not. We have experience, and we're trying to bring awareness, prevention, and just caution to the table. Even when we talk about it lightly and openly, we're trying to prevent and make you guys a little bit more aware, especially with like younger crowds, high school. That's when I developed mine, is high school. It's important to me that when people are in these ages where they're more susceptible to dip in their toes in the throw up pool or the not eating in general pool or whatever,
Overeating.
overeating, there's so many, the not eating, taking laxatives, there's so many ways when you're at the age where you might feel more pressured, that you know the consequences of these things, because it can get bad, like hospitalization bad. That's where I was.
It can, I mean, there is a high percentage of people who have eating disorders that unfortunately pass away from it. And, we are aware of that, but yeah, we're not trying to be insensitive. This is how we cope.
Yeah. So that being said, let's get into it.
Okay. So I want to know, when was the time when you started to develop these habits?
So I I was 14, and a lot of my friend group had already had full-blown eating disorders, and weight was a huge topic. At this point, I didn't have issues with my body until like a cluster of things kind of happened around the same time. One being is I was in a relationship. Well, my first love, I guess you can kind of say it wasn't like the first like real love, but it was like me learning what relationships are, like my first real relationship. I miss this lovely lady. She was talking about how, like, her weight and how she felt about it, and she was a stick. She was a Slim Jim, and I was probably 190 at the time. And I was trying to tell her, and not in the most informed intellectual way, because I was 14. I was saying, you're beautiful, you're fine, just be like me, and love your body as it is, love who you are. And she, said something along the lines of, well, you're overweight. And that is the moment that brought real attention. And at the time, my mom, our mom was, saying things about my weight, and my friends were obsessed about their weight. and I started to be more aware of my body at that time, and that's around the time it started. What about you?
So, I was in 7th grade, and I had this teacher. She was the, like, geography teacher.
Mhm.
She was very sweet, and she wanted to relate to us in a way, I guess, and show us middle school is such a weird time for everybody. And she every morning, not morning, every like day before class, like before we got into what we were learning about the day, she would read a chapter of Chicken Soup for a
For the
Teenage
teenage
Soul.
soul, yeah, I used to have the diary.
And
Mm.
one of the first stories she read was about a girl who was unfortunately struggling with an eating disorder. And the story was very, very not graphic, but, like, it explained
Informative.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she in the story, she talked about what she would do, how she would get away with not eating and her parents not knowing,
Yeah.
how much she would exercise, and it got to the point where she fucked up the muscles in her legs from exercising so much.
Mm.
The doctor said she wasn't allowed to do the specific form of exercise anymore. So she talked about other exercises she did that she could do
Yeah.
instead of doing that specific one. And yeah, so at that point, had that was when I that's like the first time I ever heard about eating disorders.
And
And then
isn't
it
it
started getting into my head that like I stopped eating lunch at school. And I would,
oh,
like, coach myself the whole time, like, I would make myself stare at the food so I could have control,
yeah.
and I would be like, "I have control over myself, I'm not eating any of this," and I would just stare at it all lunch, and I didn't have any friends, so no one was like, "Why are you staring at your food and not eating?" I could get away with it, and I
Yeah.
did that every single day for that whole year.
I do have to ask because this just came to mind. I was struggling when you were in 7th grade with my own. Did watching me at all encourage you or make you more aware of your body?
Um, I honestly, I don't know, cause like I said, I didn't really realize that what you were, cause it wasn't the same things from the story, and I thought, in my kid brain, I thought that was the way to do it, and if people weren't doing it that way, they weren't doing it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So but, yeah, like I said, looking back now, the amount of exercising you would do, how you would eat things, and, now I realize that, like, the signs were there, definitely, I just didn't realize them.
Yeah. I do want to reach out with another disclaimer, and we're going to be a little less detaily in this episode with the intention of doing the opposite of what the chicken, you know, soup
The
soul.
chicken, the chicken soup
So,
soul.
or what it did, because you might see a common theme in our stories. It doesn't take much. A lot of people think that someone with the eating disorder, they had like an overcritical mother or they were like pushed into it by their family. That is often not the case. It's very easy, especially being a woman or even a man in this world with all these expectations of your body and the value being put on your body. So we're trying to be very careful, and we're not going to give too much detail into our routines or rituals. But we will
Yeah.
tell you a little bit of how we suffered. I think the reason why I asked is watching people around me with eating disorders really encouraged me in a way, and being in middle school and in high school. I remember the first time I ever noticed somebody having an eating disorder. It was like a frenemy, like somebody who picked on me a lot, but I was part of the group because I felt
Mhm.
like being part of the group lessened that, the bullying. And I remember sitting with the head mean girl of that group. And when she ate, like let's say we were having chicken fries, she would cut them up in tiny bits, tiny bits so tiny that I don't know how she tasted these things. And then she would eat it one by one and chew excessively. And like if we had pizza, she would dab all the oil off and take nearly all the cheese off of it and eat around it and chew and chew and chew and chew. And I remember one time I was like, "Oh my gosh, you lost so much weight." And I'm like, "You look great." Her response was, "Are you saying I was fat and ugly before?" And I was like, "Whoa." Like she was never fat. I just noticed a
Mhm.
lot of weight loss in like a month. So when I started being more aware with my own body, I would think back to those instances and I would take, tips. I started cutting up my food. I started chewing a lot. Sometimes dabbing grease off pizza. Grease is kind of my favorite part. Grease and crust, I'm a weirdo. But I ate pizza a lot less those days, so yeah. Other than chicken soup, do you pick up tips in any other places?
There's 2 other kind of, cause I struggled with it a little bit when I was in high school, but it didn't really hit until 2 years ago, and that's when I really started living by it. But when I was in high school, this is kinda silly now that I think about it, but probably not. I was at lunch with my friends, and I, cause before that, all I really thought about with eating disorders was not eating?
Yeah.
And I I definitely had the food guilt going on because I ate lunch and I told my friends that I started getting self-conscious for eating and I felt guilty for eating it and I felt guilty for eating all that I did. And she looked at me and she pointed to the bathroom and she told me, "Go throw it up then."
Wow. So the common theme I'm getting is like high school and middle school. Like
Yeah.
that's where you
But
acquire all those things.
I didn't suffer from it as much, like, definitely a little bit. Like, I remember in middle school when I found out when she read us that story, like, I
Mhm.
went home and this is so stupid, but we had this bag of, um, it was, like, Jolly Ranchers, and I
Mhm.
looked at the calories and I was like, they were 25 calories, and I was like, "If I eat one of these a day, that's fine." And that's all
Yeah.
I could eat. But I didn't, obviously. I mean, I didn't know how to get away with I couldn't do the same things the girl did in the story, pretty much, at home with
Yeah.
hiding,
Yeah.
especially since we shared a room.
Yeah, and the way that our mom did like to show love is sometimes cooking great meals, so
Yeah,
she's not a woman that you could refuse her meals when she did cook, like, she would take notice.
yeah. But when it really started hitting was when I was living alone, and I was going through a lot at the time with previous friendships, and I was under a lot of stress, and I hated my job, and I hated my life, and I could hardly pay my bills because I moved into a place where it was intentional for 2 people to live there, but that didn't pull through, so it was just me. So I had to pay double what I had originally was paying, and yeah, I was just really freaking stressed, and I was on social media, and I had this, it was like a fan account for I don't even remember who. I think G-Eazy. And yeah, I don't know how I found it, but I saw a post and I went to the person's profile and in their bio, they said, "Don't follow if you don't have an ED." So I looked up what ED meant because I didn't I didn't really it didn't like Ed, who's Ed? Like I didn't like
R
piece
if you don't have an
together that
Ed.
that's yeah, I didn't piece together what that was. So and then I was like, "Oh." So I made a whole new account and I followed that one person, and then more accounts like that started coming up and more and more and more, and I started reading more stuff. That night, I threw out every food I had in my house. I bought specific foods that the people on the website told me to. I bought a scale. I started
Ew.
taking body check pictures and I still have those pictures. They're, like, hidden in my Snapchat My Eyes Only, and from then on, it was, like, an ongoing thing for, I think, 2 years, but it was like a vicious binge purge cycle.
Yeah.
So I would lose the weight, gain it back, lose the weight, gain it
Yeah.
back. I was in pretty much a plateau, and then I got more serious about it, and the thing is, like, in my head, I like because when I was talking to you about it a week ago, you were like, "Why didn't you reach out to me? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you talk to me about it?" But the thing is like I didn't want help. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was like, I'm being safe about it and I'm
Yeah,
good, This is
yeah,
fine. I'm losing weight. I remember I had a strict schedule. So I worked 6 days a week at the time. I wouldn't eat my whole work week. And then on my day off, I would like reward myself with like a salad usually cuz I would go crazy for a Cobb salad.
Oh,
Like, that was
yeah.
my shit. I loved Cobb salads.
Chicken Caesar salads
Um
were mine.
mhm, I love those. I like the one from, Panera.
Oh, yeah. I heard those are
God,
good.
so good. So, yeah, and that was fine, and I lost a lot of weight to the point where people who didn't know I was trying to lose weight would reach out to me and be like, "You're losing so much weight. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you." And I'm
Oh.
like, "Yes, yes." However, I was an idiot, and one day I went out to eat with my friends, and I was feeling a little bingy, and I ordered considerably a lot of food, and they looked at me like, "Girl." And I was like, "Oh, no, it's fine. I haven't ate for 6 days." And they started yelling at me in the middle of the restaurant, like yelling, actual, like, raised voices. And I started crying. Everyone was looking at me. Well, it felt like everyone was looking at me. I don't know if they actually were.
Right.
So that was tough. And I got in my head that like they're just jealous of you. Like that voice. Like they're
Yeah.
just jealous of you. They don't want you to lose the weight. They want you to be ugly. They want you to be fat. They want you to be inferior to them because they're smaller than you. That's how I felt. And then after that, I kept doing my 6 days no eating, and I was at work, and I just got these awful pains in my stomach, like, really bad, and I couldn't move. Like, I literally sat on the ground at my work, which I worked at a fast food restaurant, that ground is nasty,
Oh, yeah.
uh, and I just started bawling my eyes out because, like, I felt so out of control because I was like, "If I eat something, these pains will stop, but I cannot eat or else I will let myself down." And that's the thing, like, people develop eating disorders a lot of the time because they want control. They want control of what goes in their body and what goes out of it for in
Yeah.
some cases, and they feel out of control in their life, and that's how I felt when I started. Couldn't pay rent and I was stressed, and then it gets to the point where you realize that you're not in control anymore, and
Yeah.
that's when it gets really scary.
I think there's a common misconception when it comes to eating disorders. So, a lot of people they think of eating disorders and they think that the sole culprit is wanting to lose weight. And sometimes, most of the time, that's how it starts. But for me, I think the biggest culprit was like guilt. And then, like, so anytime I would count the calories and I would make sure that I was in the time of day in the setting to where I could thoroughly enjoy them. Like I had to have, like you said, full control over when and what calories I could enjoy. To the point where even today I have like symptoms still from that. Like I will not eat anything if I have to pee. Because I will not be able to enjoy those calories, and if I'm putting them in my body, I have to make sure I enjoy it. But what brought it to a critical point for me was I would feel guilty anytime I ate. And then I would associate my eating disorder and my behaviors, my rituals with guilt. So it spiraled to the point to where anytime I felt guilty, non-related to eating disorders, I would want to throw up. Or I would associate it with stress. So anytime I was stressed, I would feel better if I threw up. Like it became this all life encompassing thing that at, the height of it, at the peak of it, it had nothing to do with weight.
That's how far it gets. Like you said, it definitely starts with some people, it starts with wanting to lose the weight, and then it, like, usually ends with,
Some kind of
the control.
JS, yeah, coping mechanism.
Mhm. Yeah, and, yeah, I still definitely get to that point as well, where whenever I feel some type of mood that I could tie in with the mood that I was feeling at the height of my eating disorder, I go back to those coping mechanisms
Yeah.
of doing things I would do, like exercising or
Yeah.
not eating.
Yeah. I've noticed I have been recovering for quite some time. I am now a little over a year without purging. I binge all the time. I'm sorry, I'm a stoner. It just happens. I don't do it on purpose.
Hashtag stoner problems.
Ooh. But I've noticed something quite telling. When I am triggered and I have those thoughts, it's not necessarily weight related. Like it might be a time where I noticed that I've gained a little more weight, but like it doesn't have to be. Like, to give it some perspective, I can like smoke a fatty and then eat everything in the house and I won't have a thought to purge. But if I'm in a really stressful life situation and I'm feeling very low about myself and I'm feeling out of control, like there's a lot of things that are happening in my life that are falling apart that I can't control, I will be triggered. So I think what you said about control is huge because a lot of us, sometimes all we have is our bodies to control. That's the one thing. Sometimes we can.
That it gets tricky. It does. And
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm in recovery or not. I mean, I eat quote unquote normally, but that's a very loose term for I eat 1 meal a day. So
Same, same. Like, I'd say I'm recovering. I still don't have a healthy relationship with food. I tend to only eat once a day. I do still obsess, about my weight. Like, even right now, I noticed recently that my BMI is crawling back up. I've been in the average healthy weight for quite a few years now, and I'm not even close to exceeding to overweight, but I'm more than I'd like to be. So I got back on my fitness, but I'm making sure that that is healthy. But yeah, we're not coming from a place of like completely recovered. And like, I don't think that's a thing with things like eating disorders. It's another addiction, honestly. Let's be real. It's an addiction
yeah.
and you're never completely healed. So please, as we speak, have in mind that, you know, we're active sufferers who I think accomplished quite a bit in
Mhm.
the road of recovery.
I wanna touch on this a little bit, but I don't have much to say about it. I don't know about you because I don't
Mm,
really struggle with it. I kind of do, but okay, like binge eating disorder. BED for short.
that makes it sound
We
sexy.
binge. I got bed disorder, baby. Um, but, like, we both binge, but then then the
Purge. Hmm.
bulimia takes
Yeah.
over. Me and my boyfriend have been binge watching Thousand Pound Sisters,
So
and
you're
honestly
binging a
I'm binging a binge show.
okay.
And honestly, there's 2 points I wanna make in this, whereas, they've talked to a lot of doctors, their doctors have, told them, this is an addiction. Like, Amy, the one who got the surgery first, the one that was originally smaller
Hmm.
than the other sister by, like, 100 pounds. She had the gastric bypass surgery, and so her stomach is smaller now, but the thing is even though she gets fuller faster, she still wants to keep eating, and she makes herself sick because of it.
I can relate
Because
to that, like with my Mary Jane. I could already be
that's a
really
mood, that's a
uncomfortable.
mood.
I may not be able to breathe, but I'm still eating that candy pop popcorn until the bag's gone.
Yeah,
Can't stop me.
but that really shows that it is an addiction, eating or not eating, because she can't stop herself even when she's full.
Yeah,
Because A, that's what she's used to, but, like, she's not under the influence, so it's a little different
right.
from you. But she, she can't stop herself.
And
And
to me, it
yeah,
sounds like a coping mechanism.
yeah, they talk about that a lot. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the show, but they talk about how they, grew up in a very not lovey household.
Yeah.
And I mean, even their mom, she's kind of tough. Like, they showed her, like, in the first episode, and they were telling her that they were gonna lose the weight to get the surgery, and their mom was all, you're not gonna be able to do it. You're gonna give up. You're gonna chicken out." Like, not being supportive, and I get tough love, but, like, still. Second
Yeah.
point I wanna make about the show. is we didn't plan on watching it, me and my boyfriend. He just kind of put it on and we're obsessed with it. But watching it, I was kind of there is a what's it called? A miss
Conception?
yeah,
Diagnosis?
a
Okay.
misconception about having an eating disorder and being fat phobic and fat
Mm,
shaming. And
right.
the thing is, there was a lot of people on that website that I was on saying, if you have an eating disorder, you're automatically fat phobic because you don't like it. You don't like, if you are bigger, you don't like the fact you look bigger and you want to starve yourself to lose the weight. I've never been fat phobic and I've never looked at somebody and is like, you're fat. Like I'm just not that type of person. So I think that is very you know, I saw somebody made a post on that website that was like it was like a screenshot of someone else's profile, and they're like, "I'm not pro Anna, I'm just pro Anna for myself." And that's just the eating disorder, you know? Like, just because you have the eating disorder and you don't like the way you look doesn't mean, that you're fat phobic and you hate every fat person. Now, fat phobia is very real, and people who say it's not real can shut the fuck up, respectively. But that was kind of reassuring to me because in my head, I was under the impression that I'm fat phobic just because I have an eating disorder, because that's what people make it seem like. But seeing them and, like, honestly, just in my head cheering them on the whole time is, like it's nice to know that I'm, you know, not like that, I guess. I don't know. It was reassuring. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm actually really, really glad that you brought up that misconception in general. Because even in my personal recovery, when I was bigger and I would talk about struggling with eating disorders, people would be like, "What? No, you don't. Like, you're."
Oh, I feel that.
I feel like that deserves to be spoke on.
Yeah, that's true. Like, even when it got to the point when I got diagnosed with it, like, I was embarrassed. Like, and people don't take bigger people who have an eating disorder seriously, and that makes me mad. That pisses me off because it's an eating disorder either the way.
Yeah. I remember, like, even I was never, I don't have the body type to be like stick thin, you know? Like, that was never me.
Mhm.
So, anytime I would try to talk about it in general, just being like average, I felt discredited and unheard and like brushed off, which would trigger me even more. Like, it would confirm to me that I am not at all a proper weight
Mhm.
because I can't even be taken seriously about my concerns about my weight, you know? About my concerns of losing like 20 pounds in 2 weeks or whatever it is, you know?
Mhm. And sorry, this is off topic. I cannot stay on topic. I'm hyped up
Me
on caffeine
neither.
and I'm ready to fucking party.
This is just us in
Like,
general. Please
I feel like
forgive.
I'm talking like a million miles per hour,
You know,
honestly.
we're good.
Like, people are gonna think I did some hardcore drugs before this episode,
You don't
probably.
sound any different from me, like, listening to the previous episodes, like, we've just switched, you know?
Yeah, I'm also a little bit manic right now, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there is this song, and I'm not gonna name the title, I'm not gonna name who it's by because y'all don't need to listen to it. But there is a line in there that hit very closely, and I wanna know if it hits the same way for you that it did for me. She says, "Just because you're colorblind doesn't mean you can see the colors." And that's how it is, like, when you're in an eating disorder, you know the dangers. You've seen the statistics. You've seen how deadly it can be. You've seen how it can fuck up your body. You've seen how it can fuck up your teeth. You can see how it fucks up everything. Like, my friend, he had an eating disorder and his body is permanently, like, damaged from it, like the shape he is now.
Yeah.
And you know those things, but just because you know that doesn't mean you can see how badly it actually is.
So, this is getting to the part of the this episode that I was really the most excited about conveying, which brings me to ask you, because this is a perfect part. When was your turning point?
I think it was that day that I had those intense stomach pains and I was crying on the floor because I was like I don't have control anymore. I don't want this. And I tried and tried. And that's when I kind of broke the months kind of spell. I feel like I was hypnotized for months.
Ironically, I had like mine was similar. It was because I was in an incredible amount of abdominal pain, except my pain led me to the hospital because I tore multiple holes in my esophagus.
Esophagus?
Yes,
Yeah.
even now I have to watch what I eat. I can't put hot sauce on stuff. I can't drink too much alcohol, especially like vodkas and stuff. It kind of like reopens those wounds. Like I put holes in there, so the lining,
Mhm.
even though healed, is still very weak and fragile, and it's very easy to rip open those wounds. And at the time, the pain was like every day and consistent and would get worse and worse to the point to where I couldn't stand up straight at all. I was walking like a 90-degree angle. Okay. Can you
Mhm.
imagine like just being bent over and walking? Like it was terrible. And I was in severe, severe pain, and it even led to like sepsis because I let it go on too long before seeking help and
Oh,
finding out.
shit.
Yeah.
That's did you get, what are they called? Ulcers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Lots of them.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
bet.
even so now, even though I'm not purging, I am more likely to get ulcers from other things because there were probably points, assuming by the pain and how long it went on, I probably had an ulcer everywhere you could have one at different points of time. So I'm messed up in there, and I have to be very careful now. And, being an adult who likes to be social, I can't drink so much, as everybody else, and I can't drink the same things as them. And I have been asked multiple times, like I'd be told like, "Oh, could you another drink?" I'd be like, "No, no, no, I'm fine." And they'd be like, "Why? Just come on, like do the thing." By the way, don't ever do that. Like if you're a person, don't do that. And if someone's not drinking at all, just don't do that. People have their reasons. You don't need to know. They don't need to justify them to you,
Period.
period. But I would be pressured into drinking more, and I would have to stand firm. And then I'd be asked, like, why? Well, then I would have to unpack everything. It'd be like, oh, well, I had an eating disorder, and blah, 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 and it causes me pain. Before I got to the point where I would actually be blunt and honest, and to the point with why, even though I would start feeling pain, I would keep drinking to keep up. And then people got to see firsthand why I don't, which was embarrassing and scary for everybody. Another
Mhm.
90-degree angle moment. And I don't know why. I don't know why. You would think it was the opposite because these places tend to, water things down. But for me, um, any alcohol that came from like an Applebee's or a Chili's, like I after like so long of a time, I like a year, I have been on and off with, as one is with eating disorders, like, you go, or any addictions, you go into recovery and then maybe you might relapse. So, anytime where I had like a 6 month to a year, well, 6 months, not too much, but like a year, around a year, where I haven't, purged, I would get to a place where I could drink one or two drinks. But never from Applebee's, never from Chili's. The first drink always kills me. And it's one of those, watered down cocktail things. But like,
Mhm.
it's the cheapest place. It's where everyone, likes to gather when they're on a budget to drink. But that was where I tend to have my embarrassing moments. Like I would have to, after a while, if we ever went there, I'd be like, oh, I can't drink today. It gets to this point where I would even like lie about it when I didn't want to unpack. I would just be like, oh, I'm on medications, or
Mm.
I'd be like, oh, I'm on a new depression medication. I really shouldn't drink on it. And usually the conversation would end there. And like I said, again, if you're ever out with friends, do not ask them why they're not drinking. It doesn't matter. Just continue to have fun. Just have
Mhm.
fun.
Just drink an extra one for them, you know?
Yeah.
Pour a little out
Yeah.
for the homie.
Yeah, and, like, why are you trying to pressure anyways? They can drive for you. I mean, like, not me, but, like, 'cause I'm
Not me though.
blind, not you, but, other people can, you know?
Mhm.
Don't pressure them. Doesn't matter. Let them be the sober driver, it's fine. So, did you have any consequences that you regret?
Well, one more thing I wanted to say about the turning point thing
Oh, okay,
was
yes, yes,
another
yes.
thing, just one small thing was due to the malnourishment, I was cold all the fucking time
Oh,
and it
me
drove
too.
me insane. Because 'cause I'm a girl, I like to be cold, okay? My room is freezing right now and I'm living for it. But, like, it got to the point where 80-degree weather outside, I was outside wearing 2 sweatshirts, shivering,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah, same.
sucked. It sucked.
I was put on iron supplements for this. I was getting pasty and sweaty and, like, cold all the time. They said I had, an iron deficiency. And of course, like, I wasn't honest with my doctor because when you're going through something like this, like you said, Ruin, I'm glad you said it because it's very true. When you have an eating disorder, usually you don't want help. You don't want to cause attention to it. You don't want people to know because you don't want anybody to stop you. So I wouldn't be honest with my doctor. I wouldn't tell them I'm having trouble, and they would put me on all these supplements, and the doctor would be confused that they weren't even helping. Like, I was even put on, like, a special iron supplement because she's like, "Oh, I don't understand, like, maybe you're not absorbing these, like, maybe you don't absorb as much." And if you are going through something similar or anything at all that causes risk to your health, I do hope that you have courage to speak to your doctor because, yeah, they're going to try to stop. But even if you tell them straight out, I do not intend to stop, they will know what the problem is and they can help you more. They're not
Mhm.
going to push you into a rehab. They don't have that power unless you're like really hurting yourself, like your life is in danger. They will know what to do for you to help your body stay healthy. Yes, you will get the warnings. You will get some lectures. If you're underage, maybe the information will be conveyed to your family, but let's be real. You need that.
Segueing back into the repercussions,
Yes.
because that's a good point to go back into it. My teeth are really fucked up. I actually had to get a tooth pulled. Yeah, they're bad. They're really bad. And I might have to get another one pulled. The jury's still out on that one. So that is the most fuckery thing to me because I've always already been insecure about my teeth because they're crooked. And, like, it's gotten to the point where I just thought it might be easier just to fucking get them all taken out and get denters, because like, they're bad. They're really bad. I have frequent toothaches. So that is the biggest one, and also, I wanna say, like, fuck all those scare tactics that people use, especially the main one where it's like, "If you starve yourself, you're just gonna gain more weight." Because I mean, there might be a little truth to it, but anytime anyone would say that to me, I'd be like, "See, they don't know what they're talking about. Imma keep going because how am I losing weight? How did I lose 40 pounds in a month? No, 2 months." And, like, that's not true. It's not true. I will say, though, however, it was really easy to gain the weight back. I don't know if that had anything to do with the eating disorder because I didn't eventually I almost said unfortunately, but that's not a good way to say that. But I did eventually gain the weight back, and it was a lot easier. Like, I was like, "How did I gain all this weight back in this amount of time?" So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I will say that that isn't a good tactic to use when trying to get somebody who is balls deep in an eating disorder to stop what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. I also I know we're getting around the end of the episode, but before we go, I do want to touch a little bit on body dysmorphia.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That that is a lifelong struggle for me.
Mhm,
Still to this day. So I think that that is a really good thing to touch on.
mhm. I know you said you had a point you wanted to make about what you do because of the mind-altering body dysmorphia that you struggle with.
So, first, I want to say that Since I can remember and since the starting of my problems with eating, one of the biggest struggles is being able to realistically see myself and what I look like and the grand image of it all. There's times where my mind will focus on one part more than the other. During one very messed up period of my life. I even had like a week where I was obsessing over my nose and I thought it was taking over my whole face. Sometimes it focuses on other parts, but in all general, I really struggle with the reality of how I'm perceived and what I actually look like. To the point to where when I see myself on camera, I can't really recognize myself, but I tend to be like enamored because it looks like a stranger. It's very different from what I see in the mirror. But okay, with my body dysmorphia and my struggle with just how I feel about my body and weight in general ever since like being recovered in the sense that I haven't been binging. I tend to be very chuggy in the sense of like always having to wear a waist belt. So, my clothes will cling to me and it slims my image down. You'll never see me walk out of the house in a hoodie or anything baggy. And I know that's most very opposite of a lot of people who struggle with similar things, but I can't look in the mirror and see baggy, or I just see disgusting in myself. I wish so much that I could be like Bailey and like rock all these like Bailey Sarian. I love her shadow. Oh my god. She rocks all these gorgeous like hoodies and she looks so cool and so tough. I even got a couple and put them on. I'm like, no, I can't do this. I can't. Anything
You
baggy,
know
just,
what though?
tell me.
With an e-girl trend, I've seen people wearing, like, really large baggy hoodies and then putting a belt around their waist.
Really?
That's like an e-girl trend,
Is it
yeah.
real? Oh, it's my time to shine.
Yeah, and then they put, like, tights underneath it, which I know you love your
I
tights,
love
so
tights, and that's another thing, clingy. I need my clothes to cling to me. I need to for, like, my shadow and any reflection I pass, it needs to look as small as possible, or else I have all these shame feelings. So, yeah, even till this day, I'm chuggy. I wear waist belt every day. I love my cardigans too. I love cardigans, so I'm always wearing, like, a cardigan and a dress and a waist belt. And it's a
Mhm.
weird, I wouldn't say weird, but it's, like, it's not an in style look to rock every day, so sometimes even my coworkers point it out, and I can't exactly express to them, why. Just be like, "Yeah, I'm Queen Chugs over here. Look at me. I rock this waist belt." But yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm in the middle of both because I do love my hoodies, but the thing is I don't like to wear them untucked because I feel like I do look like a box when I do that. So, like, I'll put, like, high-waisted pants, and then I'll tuck it in, then I'll puff it out a little bit. That's, like, my style. That's how I always wear my clothes. So it's, like, in between because I don't like it too clingy, but I also don't like it too not clingy.
Yeah. I like it like max clingy. Like I said, the biggest part for me, the point is just for any reflection to be as thin as possible. Because it's
Mhm.
often triggering for me to walk past a mirror or a store shop. Car windows are the worst because they make you look bigger. I walk past them and if I'm not like I have this idea that I look gross or my body shape is gross. It mainly comes down to like body shape for me. If it's not that slim enough, hourglassy type look, I'm disgusting and it just makes me want to relapse. So I tend, yeah, to do anything I can to slim my image as much as I can.
I
Mm.
get that.
So, all that being said, I really hope everybody who might be struggling with this knows that you should take up space, sis. And this doesn't mean like, let's all be overweight and obese. And that's not what taking space is. It's appreciating your existence and your right to exist in the healthiest, most confident way possible. We're allowed to take up space, be your healthy weight. That is the best you, the you that is glowing. For me, I thought the best me was the thinnest. No, it's the happiest. You glow when you're happy. And I want to give just a little bit of advice to anyone who might love somebody with an eating disorder. I know that the go-to is like, "Oh, you're not even overweight, you're beautiful." I don't think that the weight conversation should be a part of that. I know that sounds weird.
Mhm.
I think the best way to approach it is, "I love you. I want you healthy. I need you healthy. This isn't healthy. I love you. Don't talk about weight."
Mhm. 'Cause I hate like, all my life I heard, "You're not fat, you're beautiful."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Why is it not possible to be both?"
Right. That was always what messed with me the most because that's the go-to and it would only infuriate me because when you say you're not fat, you're beautiful, you're just encouraging that idea that if you're overweight, you're not beautiful.
Mhm.
Or when you say you're not fat, you're wonderful, or you're not fat, you're whatever it is. When you start with you're not fat, all they hear is if they do feel like they are fat, they're not the other thing. And anything you
Mhm.
say after that will probably go in one ear and out the other. So, when discussing the topic, when you're concerned about somebody's health, it should always surround the fact that I love you. This isn't healthy. I want you to be healthy. I might even say what I said before, and I love you. I want you glowing. I want you passionate. I want you to feel good because those are all the things you deserve. And we can only have those things if you're making healthy choices. And I'm worried. I think that's a better way to approach it.
Definitely. Sorry, I was, like,
I thought
hitting
you
my vape.
died. I'm so
No,
sorry.
I was straight up just hitting my vape, and I was like, "I can't talk now."
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Ruru?
Um, not really, just, love who you are. Do what you want to do because it is affecting your health and not just to conform to society's version of beautiful.
Yeah. Let me just say, look through any magazine and ask yourself if that person looks like a real person or if they look healthy. It's
Mhm.
all of what we see on TV and in the magazines and all we're supposed to be, it's not real. I know we hear this all the time. I heard it all the time when I was going through it. But being in the place where I am now, I understand and I want to shout to the rooftops. It's not real. It's all an illusion and it's not healthy. The people in the magazines, they look like skeletons. Models look like straight skeletons. Their faces don't even look healthy. And I'd like you to ask yourself if you're going through it. In addition, is that what you really want? Do you really want to look like an unhappy skeleton just to feel like you conform? One thing I learned while recovering is I am the most beautiful. We're all the most beautiful when we're happy. And not eating or throwing up, it takes that glow away. It's right out. No glow in your eyes, no glow
Mhm.
in your face. It takes that little bit of life from you. If this reaches anybody and they want to talk about it, they need somebody to talk to, you can reach out to me 100,000%. You can hit my email at bishdishren@gmail.com. I will get back to you.
We also have various social medias, all at Traumatized Bish Dish that you can our DMs will be open, and you can vent or rant or talk about your day if you want
Yeah,
to.
yeah. And I will read them all. I promise. And I will get back to them. Unless you're mean. If you say anything mean, I will not receive you.
You're
I will
catching
look.
that block.
Yeah. Yeah. If I see upon opening even one mean word pop out, I'm not going to read the rest of the messages. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. I do not give anybody else the power of my emotion. So that being said, I love you, bitches. And if any of you are suffering, I want to hear from you, bitches. We can get through it together. We wanted to start this for community, for people like us, the dark, humored, loving, suffering, traumatized bitch dishes. This is your home.
Period.
Period. That being said, do you want to close us out, Rue?
Mhm. Oh.
Yeah, you're cute. That's what we always say.
You have to say it first.
Why? Well, you were taking the lead this time. I can say it, I guess, since you're okay. Okay.
Are you ready to close us out? Mhm. Silence.
I'll do it. I'll do it because I feel it in every inch of every bone in my body. I love you, Bish.
I ain't never gonna stop loving you, Bish.